You can download the Jambo Radio app on Google Play and App Store. Now, it's time for our conversations with inspirational individuals in Scotland and beyond. This is a moment with Sade and Enoch.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Moments with Sade and Enoch. My name is Enoch and Juliet is sitting in for Sade today. Say hello to our audience.
Hi
Juliet.
everyone.
And we've got our special guest today, Keme, joining us all the way from Edinburgh. Hi Keme.
Hi.
Fantastic. So on today's show, we'll be talking about, sometimes in life we think we're making sacrifices for a greater goal. But then when you actually look at it, you realize that you're not making that much sacrifice and you're not pushing hard enough. And it's because, it could be part of the reason could be because you're in a place of comfort to the point where you don't have enough, enough drive or motivation to push yourself to make that sacrifice. So Keme is going to share his story with us around, really putting himself out there, putting himself at discomfort, making sacrifices for a goal he was wanting to achieve a few years ago. So Keme will be sharing that story with us, and you can join us in the studio. You can call our number. It's 0141 530 2787, or you can send us a WhatsApp. We are on 074 5990 6822.
All right, and if you're also on social media, you can message us at Jambo Radio Scotland on Facebook, Jambo Radio 1 on Twitter, and jamboradio.scotland on IG. You can also send us, emails. We'd love to hear your contribution to this subject, and you can send us an email on info@jamboradio.co.uk.
Fantastic. And, going back to today's topic, when we hear this subject of sacrifice, when we think of people like... It's a bit inappropriate using Elon Musk as an example now. Bill Gates and so some of the folks in our recent history that have built something significant, right? So those are the kind of people we're thinking of. But then it's good sometimes to look at, should I say, regular people like us, people our friends and our family that have made sort of like huge sacrifices. And Keme is one of them. So I know Keme personally. I've known Keme for 3 years. So he's got this amazing story that I've just always marveled at. And I've shared your story with a lot of people. You have no idea. Whenever they're telling me that they're doing this, I'm like, listen, Keme, this, what are you talking about? So, so Keme will be sharing his story with us, and hopefully, it inspires. And if you have any questions for Keme, you can reach out to us in the studio. If you have anything you want to ask, or if you think, I don't like what Keme is saying, or I don't like what we're saying, reach out to us. Let's have a conversation. Let's do a bit of back and forth. This lovely Wednesday evening.
So, Keme, would you want to tell our listeners who Keme is without telling us what you do for work in 30 seconds?
That's almost difficult in the current world we live in. But I'd like to say I'm a curious person. I'm a thrill seeker. I'm a traveler, and I just enjoy experiences, new experiences, no matter what they are. I'm just that person.
Fantastic. So Keme, so you said you're a traveler. I don't know if you know Keme's social media. How many countries have you been to? I don't know if you're keeping track.
I haven't started to keep track yet.
Okay.
I think I haven't got to enough yet.
Yeah, but you've done at least 20?
A little less than that.
Let's
not
okay.
oversell it.
Okay, more than 10? More than 10?
Yes.
Yeah, because you seem to be somewhere in the world every weekend. So you're definitely...
I just have a lot of pictures to post.
Yeah, you just keep posting. But you're fantastic. So, I'm always interested in names, right? So your name is Keme Adeoye.
Yeah.
So what does Adeoye mean?
So Adeoye originally comes from the Yoruba culture.
Okay.
But mine is actually from the Edo culture.
Okay.
Because they're quite similar.
Okay.
Edo people do pick up some Yoruba names.
Okay. So this is all in Nigeria, just for our listeners. This is in Nigeria.
This is Nigeria.
Yeah.
And Adeoye means crown. It means the crown of the king or the crown.
Okay.
Whichever one suits.
Fantastic. That's a big name. Yeah.
All right, so I'd like you to just take us back through to growing up. What was university like? Where was that? How did it go?
Okay. I had the opportunity to get two different experiences in Nigeria, tertiary institution-wise. My first attempt was in Auchi Polytechnic, Auchi, where I got a diploma in mass communication, and then I moved on to Keme Adeoye University, Okada, also in Edo State, where I studied international relations and strategic studies. So there were two quite different experiences. One was a public school, the other one was a private school. So it gave me a chance to experience and if I may add, the private school was on scholarship. So, but it was a family scholarship, but still scholarship.
What does that mean? What does family scholarship mean?
So not your immediate family, but good meaning people, that directly or indirectly connected to you, just coming together to fund your education.
Wow.
Yeah, that's quite surprising because this is like the first time I'm hearing about scholarship for private university in Nigeria.
Yeah, fantastic. So they've just come around and they said, we're going to support Keme through university.
Yeah.
Impressive. Okay. Oh, sorry, I interrupted.
So that's me, mass communication diploma, and international relations. Yes.
And international relations. So, when people go to study things so I studied accounting, right? So for me, it was clear. I studied accounting. I wanted to become an accountant. So when people study all these, what should I call them? Interesting courses. I'm always thinking, what was your end goal? So with that one, what were you looking to do afterwards?
So it's nice you say interesting courses because it was actually an interesting journey.
Yeah.
So when I first studied mass communication, I became more involved with media.
Okay.
I started to do radio. My first internship was on radio. I went on to newspaper. I did TV for a bit, not too long. So international relations for me was just an extension of mass comm, right? So now I know how to talk, but now do I know how to talk to a wider audience? Do I know how to talk to the world? How can I connect with the world and all that? So international relations kind of provided me the opportunity to help my communication skills, my ability to connect with people, no matter the culture, no matter where I am. So that was the interesting part of it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you rolled your eye, Juliet. It sounds like you studied one of those interesting courses as well.
I actually studied food science and technology. And the reason why I studied food science and technology was because I liked food.
Okay.
No. I didn't know. So my parents wanted me to be a doctor because I was the best science student.
All right. So physics, chemistry, biology.
But I didn't see myself becoming a doctor.
Okay.
Because I didn't feel that I had what it takes, in terms of, because even then I had a phobia for blood and all those things. So I knew that wasn't my career path. Yeah. So food science seemed like the next best thing because it's engineering. Yeah. And I liked food. So that was.
Yeah. So it almost seems like I'm interviewing. I was going to say, so what did you do after that?
What I did after that, funny enough, I think when I graduated, I just got straight into business development. So that was where I fell in love with the world of business. So that's why for my master's, I decided to do international business management.
All right, okay. So you never really used your food science technology?
I plan to use it, but I plan to use it in the sense of business, right? So I'll basically use everything I've learned from my business degree, and then I'll go back to apply it.
So we've got plans. There's a big plan around you.
Yeah.
Okay. A woman with a plan.
Food.
Indeed. So Keme, you finished uni, you went to Auchi Polytechnic, then Keme Adeoye University, finished. What year was that?
I finished in 2016.
2016, okay. So what did you go straight into the world of work, or did you go on to study more, or what?
So it was funny at that point because while I was still in school, I had kept in touch with all the media outlets I had worked with. So I was still getting jobs. I was writing articles for people. I was writing profiles. A lot of the new artists. Then I used to write their profiles, do their launch events and stuff like that. But after uni, it kind of changed because now I wanted something concrete, not just
not
here and
freelance,
there. So that became difficult. I was doing interviews. I was all over the place in Lagos because I grew up in Lagos.
Okay.
So I really wanted to work in Lagos and really enjoy the city. But it was either an offer I did not like or a job I was sure I didn't want to do.
Yep.
So it was like that for a while, but I kept, if you are quite conversant in Nigeria, you don't actually have to have a 9 to 5. You can get by.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? You can do this
Dipping
little jobs here and there and you survive. You make good money, but pulling that together is a problem. But here and there, you can always piece things together and get by on that. So that was how I went by from 2016 till 2019 when I moved to the UK.
Okay, so just they were freelancing here and there for 3 years and then moved to the UK.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so your story is actually a very, very interesting one. But what I want to understand is, I just want you to like describe the series of events that brought you to Scotland.
First off, on that list is tiredness. I was completely tired of what it was for someone like me, with no connections back home, with no concrete stance anywhere. Because what I had done for the most part was media. So finding my way into anywhere else was almost impossible. There was no track record. There was no references. Most of the references I had were media related. So it stifled a lot of the things I wanted to do.
And what did you want to do at that time? What would have been this is my perfect job? What would that have been back then?
My perfect job would be either back then as a radio on-air personality.
Okay.
Or as a newspaper person. Like I used to do entertainment journalism. So I was with the celebrities, I was with the artists, and I'm quite good with music. So I have a good ear for music. So being in spaces where there's a lot of creativity was what I was aiming for. I really wanted to be in that entertainment space back in Nigeria. To see what it has become now, imagine being a part of it.
You could have been Davido's manager.
Possibly. But so it was, I love creative people. I love people that bring ideas out of nothing. So I was always surrounded by upcoming artists, painters, even graffiti, the people that do
really?
just people that express themselves through art. That was my space. So getting a job in that space would have been the best
perfect option
for me.
Right. Okay. That's good.
So when you did decide that, right, I'm going to move to the UK, did you intentionally select Scotland, or was that just happenstance? How did that all come to be?
It was happenstance, but then I had an old secondary school mate that had lived in Scotland we were not really close. But after a few conversations, he was like, I think you do well here.
Yeah.
Like, just listening to you talk, I think you'll figure it out. Not like there's anything
specific
that he thought I could do, but he knew I would figure it out just listening to me talk. And he was like, I'll find you a place to stay for 2.5 weeks.
And then after that,
and then figure out your life from there.
It's interesting you said that, because maybe not a lot of people, a good number of people I've met in my many years in Scotland, when I asked them, how did you end up in Scotland? And a lot of them is word of mouth. Someone said, come, it's good. Was it the same thing for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Who told you to come?
Actually, it was, so I had not a friend, my auntie, but it was a distant auntie.
Right.
Yeah. So she was the one that advised me.
And she lived in Scotland then?
Yes.
Okay. And she still lives in Scotland?
No, she's no more in Scotland. She's not in America.
Well, I guess you're going to America next. You're like, hey, Juliet, come to America. This is where it's happening. Yeah, it's interesting, because there must be something that draws, should I say, Africans to Scotland. Then
Scotland is a nice place.
Yeah, it's so peaceful.
Yes.
I mean, it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I would say peaceful. Like the peace aspect was. I grew up in Lagos. You know how noisy Lagos is. Like, even in your room, you can hear all the noise. They say Lagos never sleeps.
Yeah.
So at 3 a.m., you can hear the buses go by. So just coming somewhere that I knew, I don't hear a lot of people back then, and when I say back then, it's as close as 2019.
Yep.
I wasn't hearing a lot of people saying they were in Scotland.
Yep.
It seemed like another continent
Yep.
on its own.
Yep.
And I was like, yes, let's give it a try.
Let's give it a go. And yeah, we are 5 years on.
Yes, this year makes it 5 years.
Fantastic. So your friend that invited you, so I'm gonna be nosy a bit. So where was he on his journey? Was he already working? Was he a student?
So he came here for his master's.
Okay.
And he had just finished that, and then he had gone back to Nigeria and then come back again and decided to join the army.
Okay.
So at the point when he advised me to come, he actually didn't have accommodation or anything to offer me because he had none of that. So all he did was make a call, which is the power of networks, right? And he made a call and was like, I know you don't know this person, but I vouch for him, and he's going to come stay at your place. And the person said 1 week, but ended up extending it to 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
So that was the beginning.
All right. Okay. So is he still in the army? Just out of interest.
He left last year.
We're still alive.
Yeah, he's a business analyst now.
Just to be sure.
Okay, so was that not an option you were going to explore then, going down the army route? And
No, not really. Like growing up in Nigeria is hard work as it is.
yes,
Yeah.
like I'm not doing that again.
I don't want anything that would tell on me, right?
Okay, so when you're coming to Scotland then, so what were your expectations? So after your friend spoke to you, you're like, okay, I'm going to go try this Scotland thing out. What were your expectations? Did you have plans around, okay, I'll get Scotland in July, then, by August, I should be doing this, by December? Did you have expectations like that?
Like with everyone else, going into a new journey, you hope it's better than where you're coming from. But truthfully, I used to be more daring, like a few years back. And truthfully, I moved to Scotland with no plan. I just knew that there was something better somewhere, and it was more about figuring it out more than planning it out.
Okay.
Right. So for me, it was like get in there and then figure it out.
So
like it's you always figure stuff out. So figure it out. So that was my plan. My plan was to figure it out.
Okay. So you came into Scotland with a degree and with the hopes of figuring it out.
Fantastic.
So you came into Scotland in 2019,
Yes.
right? Did things fall into place like immediately? How was it?
Not really. I came in October 2019. I started to work almost and like, I don't know if it's peculiar to Nigerians or immigrants in general. Some of us come here on debt, like borrow money back home to come here. So you really need to start working as soon as you get here. So I didn't really have a lot of options to relax and look for the best job or find the best fit. And I took the first job I could get.
And that was
an Amazon as a warehouse operative.
Okay.
Right. And then COVID hit. I moved roles in there, but it was still around the same warehouse operative business. And COVID hit, which meant I had to stay in Amazon longer than I expected. It seemed like the surest thing since I was already there.
Yeah.
It's like, why go out and look for what you don't know when at least your paycheck is guaranteed here every week? And that was how I ended up spending 2 years in Amazon. I like to blame COVID for that, but we all know the story. I stayed there for 2 years, and like this time of the year, the same time when I met Enoch 3 years ago, I just woke up one day and I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like it's telling. I was working nights then, so it was like I could see what it could do to me in the long run. And I was like, it's time to start getting stuff done. COVID is no longer an excuse. It's time to go out there and figure out those things that you said you came here to figure out.
So was it at this point that you got to know about Black Professional Scotland?
Yes, around that time. That was 2021. And it was basically my first interview. So I had applied for a job that someone had recommended, and the interviewer happened to be Enoch.
Was it?
Yes.
Actually,
The interviewer happened to be Enoch, but from listening to my stories, he understood that.
was that for a role at BPS?
No, it was.
Was that one of the internship roles?
Financial services also.
Right.
Okay.
So internships. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm.
So it was, but I think it was longer than the internship, like
Okay.
maybe a longer contract.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So from discussing with Enoch, he realized that you seems to like media a lot. That's all you talk about. And then I also enjoyed knowing that there was a community that was invested in helping people like me on their journey. And I told him at that interview, I was like, even if I don't get this job, I really want to be part of this community. And he was gracious enough to involve me. He put me in that group chat, put me in that communication chain. Like, so I started to understand what was going on within the community. There was things like CV reviews.
Yeah.
He helped check my CV. You checked it a couple times even. Like every other job we
beat
applied
that
for.
CV to death.
Every other job we applied for, I would say we, because he was invested in me. I said, I don't know if that's how he does with everyone, but I'm gonna feel special about that. So he was invested in. He would always call me, "Oh, what have you checked this out on the website? Have you done that? Have you checked that out?" And it helped in a way because I had been used to. I'm an only child, by the way. So I've been used to trying to figure it out first, and then applying. But now it was more like there was someone that was fine-tuning every effort I was making. And there were even interviews that he sat in on, and he gave me reviews after the interview. So with every step, there was improvement.
Okay.
There was improvement.
Oh,
sorry, I just wanted to ask, apart from Enoch, have you made like any other friends within that community?
Or connections, yeah.
Yes. On LinkedIn, that's one.
Okay.
So BPS also helped. It was BPS then, now it's BPU.
Yeah.
So it was Black Professional Scotland, for those that don't know. But now it's Black Professional United Kingdom because we're bigger now, right? So they made me understand the importance of networking. I'm usually quiet for the most part. Being a radio guy in Nigeria, it's just you and your boots, no one else in there. So you can talk to yourself the whole time. But I understood how just being in the conversation makes you have certain knowledge that would not readily be available. And there were situations where, because Enoch knew I was interested in media, he would send a message to someone that he knew was in media and connect me via email and say, "Oh, you should talk to this person," right? So I understood that even if the person is not beneficial to you, could be beneficial to another of your connection.
Yeah.
But in that community, there's been a lot of positives from being part of the BPU community.
Glad to hear that.
Oh, sounds like a BPU advert, but I swear that was not the plan for this show. So before we continue, just to remind you, our listeners, that you can join the conversation if there is anything Keme has said or Juliet has said or I've said that you want to dig in, you want to ask a question or whatever, you want to add an opinion. You can reach us on 0141 530 2787. You can also send us a WhatsApp. We are on 0745 990 6822.
And of course, if you're on social media and you'd like to send us a message, you can reach out to us on Jambo Radio Scotland on Facebook, Jambo Radio 1 on Twitter, jamboradio.scotland on Instagram, and of course, send us your contributions to what we've been discussing so far at info@jamboradio.co.uk.
Yeah, that's a lot of options for people to get in touch.
Yeah, so many options.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's no fax. Yeah, some people still use fax. So true fact, right? So they just in Germany, they still use fax for a lot of things. We've got Black Professionals Europe.
Yeah.
So like all these Black Professionals thing that I'm putting all over the
Spreading
world. It's
everywhere.
exposing me to a lot of different ways of working. So in Germany, they have, I don't want to say old school, but they're very traditional in their way of doing things, to the point where there are some things that you get a response quicker by fax than by email. No jokes.
Wow.
You go on some governmental websites, you know how they list, you can email us here, you can call us here. One of the options is you can fax us here in 2024. So I wasn't joking when I said there's no fax option. And in Japan, they just is it made a law? Do you make a law? Do you sign into law that they need to start phasing out, believe it or not, floppy disk? Were you all born in floppy disk time? Yeah, floppy disk. You know floppy disk, right?
Yeah.
Those things, yeah. So they still use it in Japan today. And it's funny, the two countries are actually very highly technological countries. So it's very interesting, the juxtaposition. Yeah. They're very technologically driven, but at the same time they're very
Especially
old school
Japan.
as well, traditional. Yeah, they still want to hold on to some things. But anyway, it's funny. When you were sharing that story, Keme, I was just thinking, and I was asking myself, why did I even care about this guy? I think it was when we were chatting, when I got that old gist around, I just got this vibe from you that this guy is on his own. And I felt, so it's a lonely place to be on your own, especially in a new country and all that. And like I've been there. I was there a few years ago, and I know what it was like then when you're just sort of trying to figure life out, and then you're making 20 mistakes instead of one. So and then also there was something then, like looking back now, you just had, because it wasn't the case that you were unemployed, you were employed, you were earning, you had a car, right? So you were comfortable, but then you still wanted more. So for me, that was just like, this guy is driven. Like, what can we do to help him? Because sometimes when people get to that stage, right, like when for immigrant folks, they come to the UK, they're trying to get work. Yeah, then you eventually settle into some type of role, and that role gives you the opportunity to maybe get a car, and maybe that role gives you an opportunity to get a mortgage, and start thinking, this is not bad. You settle in. But then that was Keme saying, nah, man, I want more than this. Like, I can, because of what I believe I have, I think there's more I can do than
Which is
being,
a good thing.
than being, and there's nothing wrong with being a warehouse operative. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. But then if you can do more, why not? Because I always look at it from an economic point of view. I'm an accountant, right? So forgive me. I'm always thinking, if you've got someone like Keme that can operate at, say, let's think of something, project manager level at, say, Barclays, right? So it could potentially add a lot into the economy, right? A lot of value. It could be operating at that level, and then from a governmental point of view as well, it could be generating more tax for the country, and it's only operating at this level. It's a loss for Keme. It's a loss for the country. It's a loss for everyone. Everybody loses. So that's why I'm always like, what can we do to help people to be operating where they should be operating? Because then everyone wins, So, but anyway, I deviate heavily. So, I think so. Moving on from 2021, you tried getting into roles. Things were not working out for you, and I think you even tried to get into BBC as well. That didn't work out, and all that. But then through all that, you made a lot of contacts. You started coming out of your shell, as you said. So at one point, right? So correct me if I'm wrong. You decided to make yourself homeless. Yeah. So take us back to that, because that's the crux of this conversation.
Yeah. So it comes from that same point of, this is all right, but I want more. And my mom would say back in the day when I had an injury, she was like, oh, it's itching you because it's healing, right? So that itch for more is like, that means there's more to have, right? And when I came, I didn't come here for studies, but I was sharing apartments with a lot of students. So a lot of my thinking had been conditioned towards their own realities, and it wasn't mine. I had no business thinking about what the things that they were worried about. But then you become so surrounded with the same thing, you begin to think you are that. So first off, I had to go homeless because we got a quit notice in the house that we were living at that time, and I didn't want to move into another apartment with the same set of people, same ideologies. I wanted something new, and so I sought homeless accommodation.
Okay.
Right. All the good stuff I had, I put them into storage, sold my car, and there was no plan. It wasn't like, oh, if I do this for this period of time, this is what I'm going to get out of it. But I was like, I want a reset. I want to start all over again. I reduced my hours in Amazon so that I could focus on chasing whatever this thing out there is that I'm looking for. And so I was homeless for just under 2 years.
2 years.
A year and a half. Basically,
Yeah, because of kicked off in 2020.
2021 up till the
last
end
year.
of 2022.
2022, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but that situation helped me because I didn't even like where I'd now moved to. So I was out there. I was hiking with Black Scottish adventurers. I was at BPS events. I told Enoch that year that this is my yes year. I was saying yes to anything, right? As long as it was a new experience, I was saying yes to it. But if I had the comfort of a house, a room to myself and everything, I'm most likely to stay indoors because that's how I live even now, right? I work from home and I'm home most of the time, except when I force myself to go to the gym, right? So I had to bring myself out of that continuous, it seemed like a loop at some point. Sleep, wake up, go to work, come back, sleep, wake up, go to work. And it's good money, especially when you do overtime and all that, right? And
you've cost down on your cost as well.
right?
Yeah.
So it got to that point where I was like, I need this money, but if we're looking ahead, if I start making those changes now, in a few years, there was no guarantees, but I should have moved ahead. And truthfully, looking back now, at the point I got the job, got the house, it all fit in perfectly because now I had a house, and I had a job, and because I was working from home, it was perfect. Now it made sense rather than just going all out to work all day just to pay for that house you don't stay in, right? So it made more sense. In 2022, I was also opportune to do a short contract with National Records of Scotland as a team lead. So that also helped me meet new people. I had a team of about 15 under me. So I would go out and it was a learning curve for me. It was me managing people. It was managing their needs, there were situations where it was bad weather and someone had to do a job, and all I did was just provide myself, take her from one spot to the next. And it was just a new experience for me. So all through 2022, being homeless, going out a lot, attending networking events, meeting people wherever there was a gathering, it helped me connect more with the community. I was hearing things that were possible. I was hearing, even on your show, a few episodes ago, I heard one of the guests say he moved from engineering to financial services. And it's like, just coming from Nigeria or in Africa, there's a lot of things that seem
impossible.
But when you're here and then you hear someone say it's possible, they don't even have to go into the details of how they got there, but you're like, he did it.
Think about the possibility.
I can do it too.
Can try at least.
Got 2 words.
Right? So it was those kind of interactions all through that year, and I was doing interviews. I got so much, unfortunately. My friend called me one day and he was like, how are you not tired? I was like, but I haven't gotten what I want yet. Like, tiredness is is almost not an option because I'm actually not there even till now. I'm not there yet. So tiredness is almost impossible for me, right? There's days that I don't want to do anything. Don't get me wrong. There's days that it gets to you. Like you wake up in the morning, maybe you've gone really hard and applied for 20 jobs in the past few days, and you wake up and every email you get is unfortunately. I got one an hour after I applied. I was like, did you guys even read my CV? Did you even check out my CV? Did you check to see if I'm qualified, or you just saw something and you're like, no, unfortunately, right? So it was testing. It wasn't easy. I know some people have it easier. Some people start today and get it tomorrow. But one thing I understood I've gotten to understand as a person over the years is each person's journey is different. It took me 2 years to get my leg in the door, right? It takes some people 5 weeks.
Yep.
It takes some people 2 days.
It takes some people 0 days. They've got a job before leaving Africa.
But understanding that I had my friend that was in the army, he left the army and became a business analyst. And I had been trying to be one a year before him, right? But he came out of the army and in few weeks, he was already a business analyst, right? But it's understanding that your journey is different. It's understanding that these things that you are learning now, patience, perseverance, it's valuable at some point, right? Some people already have that, so they don't need to be tested in that, right? But maybe I needed to be tested in patience, right? And trying, and there's some interviews you go to and that you did well. You're
like, I smashed that one.
You're like,
I'm in.
And then you come out and the feedback that you get is like, did they listen to me at this interview? Or was I having those conversations in my head, right? So that was a summary of that period where I was homeless, but I was going hard. I was trying my best to. Enoch knows the story. The job I got wasn't the best, but it felt like an award for effort.
All that,
right? All that effort actually paid off for something, right? And I was opportune to get into my current organization and join a wonderful team that made it all worth it. So it's like all that pain, all that stress, everything I went through, getting into my first role, I was able to calmly enjoy it and grow in it.
That's actually a very, very inspiring story. I'm just trying to think about...
You're looking inspired.
No, I'm trying to tell my mom that I want to be homeless for a period of time. It's not going to be the same story.
It helps.
No, don't tell
to
her.
Be an orphan.
Don't tell her.
So it helps.
Okay.
I'm an orphan, right? So no dad, no mom. So most of the decisions I make are for myself, and I have an 8-year-old daughter, right? So most of the decisions I make are, where do I want to be in a few years? How do I want her to see me, right? I had her when I was like clueless, right? So as she has grown, I've also grown, right? So in a few years, where is she going to look at me and say, oh, like, Daddy, you talk all this talk. What have you been doing all this time, right? So maybe not a good joke, right? But it helped that most of the decisions were about where I wanted to be.
Okay.
Right.
So would you say that's the reason why you decided to do that, like just because of your daughter and where you saw yourself?
That was a very like important factor in the decision making process. But like I said, nothing was guaranteed. So it's not like I was going to be homeless and once they see I'm homeless for 2 months, then they'll give me a job and then they'll give me a house, right?
Was you basically taking a leap?
It was like, I don't like where I am, so I would not continue that way. Like he said, I had a car and I was going around town. I was enjoying myself really. Like, so to go from that, to wake up no one stopped me. No one stopped me. No one ever. In fact, the trigger for me was, you mentioned it without knowing.
All right.
Someone walked up to me one day in Amazon and said, "Oh, you have a permanent job now. Everything is quite settled. You should get a house in the area." And I was like,
This is me. This is me now.
So this is the end.
Yeah.
Like, I came in and this is the first job I got, and I'm just gonna end here. No other experience. I was like, no. So what would be good advice for someone else in that situation was horrific for me. I was like, nah, I'm not ready to.
And that's the beautiful thing, right? Because like what we're sharing here doesn't mean everybody needs to do exactly the same thing. But I think the core note here is around that when we are telling ourselves that I'm really pushing out for that stuff. Sometimes we're not pushing out enough. Like we're not, because we're still in a place of I'm pushing out, but then if it fails, I'm fine. And I think that was where you came out from. You're like, this can't fail, because if it fails, I'm not fine. Like that's not, so, and I think so, and that feeds into my next question around, so putting yourself in that discomfort, how did that change your approach to, I guess, applying for jobs? I think you've answered it in a way, like applying for jobs and all that. I guess, was it more drive? What did it change for you that period?
It gave me, there was an aggression to it. Like, I was more aggressive. Like, there was nothing to be doing half the time. There was, like, I would do some menial jobs just to have some money in the pocket. But like, so what are you, like, I'm so bad with myself that sometimes I wake myself up and I'm like, so what are you doing right now?
So was that why you came on some crazy acts with myself and Josh?
What's that?
I said, was that why you came on some crazy?
And that was also my yes. So I was saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
Like, so I would just wake myself up. I even do it till now. I'm like, you've gotten this now, so you're just gonna rest, right? So it's personal, right? But being in that situation, and I knew I couldn't stay there too long because it was mentally, it wasn't the best place, right? You put yourself there, but getting out of there is very important because the way you put yourself there, it's not that easy to remove yourself as well, right? So you needed to actually come out with something. So I also started to work out a lot then. I started to work out a lot, which helped so I would do everything I needed to do during the daytime, and I would be in the gym and it used to make you laugh. I told you I was in the gym for 3 hours. So you're like, what are you doing there? Right? And my phone would be in my pockets, earbuds in the ear, just focus. So that actually also helped me for a long time. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm sure our listeners would like to understand what the real outcome of this whole, entire sacrifice has been. Like, what would you say is the main outcome of this?
Personally, for me, the main outcome was I got something, right? And that something has led to a lot of other somethings over the past 2 years, right? And even it didn't help that it took me 2 years to get that. Moving into the next row still took me a while too, right? Maybe not as long. It took me like 2 months, right? But until I get what I am looking for out of a situation, it's almost impossible I can pause and resume, but I can't stop, right? So that year, which was basically 2022, it was one of the roughest years of my life in general. I wouldn't say it's one of, because there's been worse, right? But in the UK, 2022 was one of the worst years in my life, but it was also one of the best years because I traveled, I went hiking, I did some crazy hikes. We bagged 3 Monroes in one day, right?
I remember that one when the rock was falling on you. We should be saying this on the radio.
I got that same day, my leg also got stuck in a boulder. So, but it was wonderful. It was, looking back, I don't think I would change anything.
Okay.
Right? It's just made me. So now when I'm applying for a role, when I do an interview and I get an unfortunate thing, I'm like, I don't like you too.
Yep.
Right? But
Yeah.
and as you go, you get better. Things like my CV, I've gotten better at just Enoch. Between myself and Enoch, we edited my CV, if not 15 times, right? For different jobs, for different kind of situations, right? And it has also helped me. So as I go, even as I get a new role or I hear something new that I learn about, I incorporate it into my CV, right? So it's a lot of learning.
And I think as well, like just for the listeners, there's something around, it's not something we promote a lot in the African culture, sharing your problems, right? So maybe you don't know this, I don't know if I've shared this with you either. So because I know you were looking for something, you know, so you eventually got a job at Police Scotland, right? So when that role came up, when Police Scotland gave us that role, we were struggling to fill that role. And then I think it was a few days more before they essentially took that role back from us. It just clicked, like, why are we not exploring this with Keme? You know, because that was not your natural role, right? But I was like, at least this gets him in. And then from there, he can then go do his thing. And then, that was when I came to. So there's something there. But then if I didn't know you were looking for something, you were looking to make a change, I wouldn't have thought about you. So there's something, again, around sharing your problems, sharing where you want to go with people you trust. Like, you know what, this is what I'm doing now, but this is where I want to go. And then again, people you trusted people. So you need to have trusted people around you. So that as they go on their journey, if they then meet something, they're like, oh, Keme will be interested in that, or Juliet will be interested in that.
Yeah.
They call you and they say, you know what, this will be good for you. So it's good to have those people around you and then just, share your hopes, share your aspiration, be vulnerable around them. You can't keep everything to yourself and try and figure it out.
Yeah. And if I may add, one more thing is openness. Like when I started, we started talking, I was media focused. I really wanted a job in BBC. But as time goes on, you begin to realize that you have a lot of transferable skills that are actually as valuable in another field as they are where you usually stay, right? So as you go on, you're more open to fine-tuning those things that you already know and see how they fit perfectly in the next phase of your career or your life.
Absolutely. And I was thinking as well, so the role you eventually got with Police Scotland, what was that role? So
it was a trainee project support officer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But it was basically, it just had that trainee tag, right?
When you go in, you're like, right, you're doing this.
Yeah, it was, but it was a wonderful team.
Yeah.
They knew it was my entry, so they were very gentle. But then they offered me options for professional advancement. Yeah. It got to a point where I was basically handling a project, right? Even
like
as
a project manager,
right? Yeah. So it was like they gave me the opportunity to grow.
Yep.
And this I'm telling you is not like 2 years or 3 years. It happened in 8 months. In 8 months, I was able to get my project management certification. I was able to handle that project. I was able to even move on to a new role. And that's already a new network that I already have from working in that department. And it's gone on from there.
Fantastic. So I think you've answered the question. I was going to ask, so where are you now career-wise? Are you still Police Scotland? What are you doing?
Yes. So I started my third role.
Oh, in 2 years?
In less than 2 years.
Wow, okay.
That's good.
She get a job at Police Scotland. They've got some food jobs in there.
So it's I'm not going to undermine, but I feel like it's me personally, because when you get into the job in there, it's nice. Like you might not want to move, right? But me personally, nah.
Yeah.
After staying in Amazon for 2 years, I told myself I'm not, like, even if I'm going to be here, I have to move roles, right? And it has gotten me to my current role, which is more like what I enjoy doing,
Okay.
which is business analysis.
Okay.
And I'd been studying for over a year. Actually, from the end of 2022, I'd been studying, and we had a conversation early in
December,
January last
year. Yeah.
January last year about business analysis. So it's something I'd been interested in for a very long time. So I'd done my research. Like I said, my friend is a business analyst. He's a senior business analyst now. So we have these sessions where and it's just two friends, which is funny. And we have the longest we've had is a 3-hour session, right, on Teams, where he just keeps dishing out. He's a very good teacher, right? He lives in England, right? So it's all this. I've learned through all these different platforms, different scenarios, different opportunities. I read stuff online. I see a random video that catches my interest, and it's me learning through all this. There's no structure to my learning, right? There's no structure to my learning, basically.
Fantastic.
All right. I've actually enjoyed listening to your story because I've learned a lot. I think one of the things which I've known before, but your story just re-emphasized it for me, is the fact that growth actually happens at the end of your comfort zone, right? So not everyone would be as hungry as you are. So what advice do you have for, say, people who, are hungry for change in their personal lives or circumstances? What advice would you give for them, Keme?
Stick to the plan, not your mood.
I like that. That's my type of advice. Like, remove the emotions.
Because there's always going to be things to be sad about. There's a lot of unfortunately's to cry about. But until I get that fortunately, it never says fortunately, but it's always like, oh,
they should be saying that, right?
Yeah.
You're right.
But
fortunately,
you've gotten the job. But until I get to that point where that's the story, it's why am I stopping?
Yep.
I actually share the same views, because for me, like when I apply for jobs and I get an unfortunately, in my mind I just see it as, okay, so it's one less unfortunately that I have to get till I get like the perfect one. So
yeah, and I think it's interesting. It does build character. I think most people have been there. So if you've not been there, you're missing out on life. Just so
you just have it easy.
Yeah. So we've got a tradition here, and maybe you've already, in a way, answered it, where we ask our current guests to give our next guest an advice. Okay. And you don't need to know them. You just need to give them any advice from you. So the last guest, his advice was take a chance. Which is interesting. You've done it, so keep taking a chance, I guess. I was thinking that, I was like, Zeddy,
you've already done that.
So keep taking a chance.
So I'm the perfect next guest.
So, in the interest of time, what advice do you have for our next guests?
It's a 2-part advice. On one part, you can add it together, but it's enjoy the journey and take a lot of pictures.
Okay. Enjoy the journey.
This
is very ideal for our next guest, believe it or not.
Okay.
Which you don't know, but it's actually perfect for their situation.
Okay.
So you remember that, because I'll probably forget.
Enjoy the journey. Take a lot of pictures.
Okay, not videos, pictures.
You can add videos.
Videos, yeah. Okay. Selfies or
whatever. just
the moments.
Capture those moments, document
so
them,
you can look back on it,
right? And just enjoy where you've been.
Good, the bad, everything.
Enjoy where you've been.
And it's true, because these days, I'm sure your phones do it, where your phone brings back pictures, memories.
Yes.
And you look at it and you remember that moment, what was happening then, and you're like, thank God. Right, okay. That is the end of the show. Wrap up the show. This has been very interesting. I've genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I even though I was part of the story to an extent, part of it was still good to hear that. And hopefully, folks listening to this, as you've heard Stephen Babatunde's story of going from being an engineer to a financial advisor, hopefully someone out there is listening to your story and thinking, you know what, I'm not giving up yet. Let me keep pushing. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Our stories are powerful, and that's why we created this show, just to hear stories that are inspirational. Every day, every normal people's story. All right. So thank you, Keme. Thank you, Juliet.
So much, Keme.
And that will be everything from us today. We've been I was gonna say we've been Enoch and Sade, but we've been today Enoch and Juliet. Juliet sitting in for Sade.
Enoch and Sade. Yeah.
This is the moment with Enoch and Sade show. And until next time, folks. Thank you very much. See you soon.